that we have an amazing guest in, and Steffi Sorensen is in with us, and she has a new project, and you're here to talk to us about Dark Horse, and some of your other amazing adventures in your life.
We're going through my life story today?
The entire life story.
Okay.
So we're going
got lots to cover.
we're covering everything in 1 hour. It's amazing how quickly we get through things.
Yeah.
So well, welcome in.
Thank you. This is awesome. I have to give you props for someone who works in television. You guys got a lot of traffic to get through, and you aced that. So nice job.
Yeah, that's why she's the anchor.
Yeah, I don't do that. I'm on the other side. That's my play-by-play. They handle all that, but that was awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Killed it.
I'm dyslexic. What she can read through easily, I struggle awful. And a lot of Mondays.
I'm here today. On Monday, I'm not usually, because I'm usually at my homeschool community, and so you almost got a glimpse at what Trey
yeah,
does when he
you
does it.
almost got a glimpse of me struggling through it. I'm good with the interview and the
reading promos is no okay.
Not for me. Not for me. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm good at selling them, but I'm not good at it.
Yeah, you guys got a lot of advertisers. It's awesome.
Yeah, and we're very appreciative.
We are. So, they're amazing.
And hopefully you enjoy your poinsettia. That's our gift back to him.
Our porpoise poinsettias.
Yes, exactly. But Steffi, you grew up in this area, and you were a star at Bartram Trail High School. Did you win Miss Florida?
I did.
School? So I mean, that's a pretty big deal. And so tell me about like the start of your love for basketball, or was it just sports in general?
I loved all sports. My older brother is 17 months older than me. And I believe I was 3 years old, and he was going to a camp. Steve Melgard, who was actually, do you know Steve?
I know Steve very well.
I went to that camp forever. And I went in there with my mom to drop off my brother. And, I loved basketball too. But I was only 3. He had to be 4. And I think my mom sweet talked me in there. I ended up going to camp with my brother. He's 5, I'm 3. And Melgard, he just really took to my brother and I. So at that point, I was there every summer. And I played other sports in high school. I played golf. I played tennis. And there's a lot of synergy. Golf was great for the mental aspect of it. I don't know if you guys golf, but you gotta stay in the game or you're gonna fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
And tennis was great for footwork. So I thought, and I wish this could be a rant for another time, but I wish kids today played more sports because there's a lot of synergy through, whether it's the mental part, footwork, and then you give yourself a break. Like I got a break from basketball to do other things. And I could really just, play golf, play tennis, escape for a little bit, knowing that, I was fully committed to basketball. So, ironically, I was a tennis player for the majority until I hit middle school. I got injured at Landrum Middle School. Coming out here always makes me think of that. Injured my right wrist, which was my forearm wrist, because I was playing tennis way more than basketball. I was traveling. My mom was taking me everywhere. And I was named after Steffi Graf, tennis player.
Gotcha.
So if I didn't fall and get injured in middle school, I think I probably would have been a tennis player. So I had to pivot, and then I really started to get more into basketball, AAU, all those things. But until then, I was pretty focused on tennis. So it's kind of, considering I got that injury in middle school, I couldn't, hit the same forehand. And so I just was like, okay, it's going to be basketball. My mom's like, no. My dad's like, play golf. And I'm like, I'll choose basketball.
Yeah. So, and it's funny because the other 2 sports you named were individual sports, and then you gravitated towards a team sport. And I love what you're talking about, like playing multiple sports, because the task analysis moves over from sport to sport, and I'm a firm believer that you should play multiple sports. Not just because of my Parks and Rec background, but I mean, I think it is better to learn all those different sports and how they transfer from one. Like if you're a tennis player, it's very similar to throwing a baseball when you serve, and actually your stroke of hitting is very similar. Now at Dark Horse, you're doing a lot of training and these type type things. Do you think that experience of playing multiple sports is going to help you with this?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm finding out now since I moved back and I lived in Atlanta for 8 years in sports broadcasting. Atlanta Airport was money. You could get anywhere easily. And just after COVID, I came back home. A lot of stuff had happened with my family, a lot of sickness and everything. So I wanted to be back. And my sister was living in Rivertown. I'm like, what is Rivertown and where is that? I was using maps and ways to get back. And she's like, it's past mom and dad's house. And I'm like, but that's like woods. What do you mean? It's a whole, and so I came back and it is a huge, I live in Rivertown now. I live next to her.
On which roundabout? There's like 42 of them.
Yeah, it was totally nuts, but there's just, there's so much development and everything. But I'm going to a lot of these practices now. I have a lot of nieces and nephews. And, some of the fields I trained at, Mills Field, I live right by, and now the fields by Fruit Cove Middle School. And I'm learning that kids at 6 are specializing in like wrestling tournaments, and like that's all they're doing.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I'm thinking as somebody in the space that wants to, maybe kids don't play sports, but their parents want them to be active. That is also something that we could do for them, where they're at least getting out. Maybe we're doing Ninja Warrior stuff, or they're moving. And, but I think that supplementing their sport and teaching them the fundamental training on how to run, injury prevention, training barefoot is a big thing. I see a lot in the college space covering games and what trainers are moving towards. That it's not necessarily, it's giving them a little bit of a break from their sport, but I think it's helping them overall just build the foundation for whatever they want to do, and they're active, and maybe we can get them outside a little bit. So I've noticed that, man, these kids are really specializing now, because the guys I went to high school with are now all the coaches. So when I go out to the fields, I'm like, I see guys that I grew up with, went to high school with, now they're football coaches, baseball coaches, and all that. And I'm like, what's the landscape here? Like, what is everyone doing? And they're like, man, we're doing 5-year-old tournaments, and they're going all around the country. At 5?
5. Yeah. It's crazy.
I'm doing summer camp at 5, and I just couldn't believe it. But I think that, we just know more on, maybe how you can train and how you can prepare a kid. So I think it's important. And that's kind of, I'm not looking to replace a sport, but maybe get them ready to prepare and to be better at their sport, if that's what they want to do. If that makes sense.
And it does. And my question, when I was growing up, you played individual sports. Like, I was a baseball player, and if I played 30 games an entire season, it was amazing. And now these kids are playing, year round. They're playing almost 100 games, and so, these kids are pitching, and I'm like, okay, how does, that's why they're having Tommy John surgery at 21.
Yeah.
How can a facility like yours protect against some of those injuries? Because I see you guys training them the proper mechanics and stuff like that. Because of the expansion of sports, I mean, the coaches' pool has gotten weaker, and that concerns me as a parent and as a former athlete.
Yeah.
How do you prepare the children to go into this where they're less likely for injury?
Well, I mean, I don't know about you, but at 6, 7, 8, 9, I don't know if I was working my rotator cuff and strengthening and doing stability and spending the time on prehab and rehab to make sure that those muscles are developing and that are strong, versus just going in there and throwing 60 pitches. I mean, my cousin's husband is a baseball coach. I just sat down with him for Thanksgiving for 45 minutes, and he's like, at the end of the day, the parents want their kids to be hitting rain or shine for 45 minutes after practice. And he's like, you need to be able to not only just provide a space for that, but also like throw some medicine balls out there, like get their core stronger. Like, a lot of the things that we don't necessarily think about, I never did, growing up, but we know that now, and we can prevent, I think, some of those soft tissue injuries that are from overuse, because maybe they're not starting, the foundation is not very strong. They're just being thrown right into full game pitches. What is it? How many pitches would you throw in a game if you're like 8 to 10?
Well, when I was, there was no pitch count.
No pitch count.
There was no pitch count when I was a kid. but I mean, now they have pitch counts. I mean, I would say an 8 to 10-year-old shouldn't be throwing more than 70 pitches.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know what the pitch count is now, but I mean, and no curveballs.
Yeah.
No, because they don't have the technique down, and their bodies haven't grown to that. So I mean, I didn't even allow, when I coached youth baseball, I didn't allow my players to throw curveballs. They're like, "Coach, teach me a curveball," you know, and nope, you're not ready yet.
Yeah.
Until middle school, I didn't even teach a curveball.
Wow.
So, you know, and that's because that's where injuries can happen, because we come from the wrong arm slot, and you know, and that's why I think your facility is so important, getting that core, building that strength. You know, and my society was all outdoor. You know, we didn't have video games. We didn't have, you know, you saying how many throws. I probably had thousands of throws, but it was with a rock or throwing a orange at my friend or something.
Life.
Yeah. It was through life. But Dark Horse, let's talk a little bit about the facility itself. Okay. So what is the core mission of Dark Horse, and how big it is? And I mean, give us the deets.
Yeah. Well, there's 2 buildings, and if I can, before I go back into that, you're preaching to the choir, because you're talking about being outside. Yeah. And after moving back here and understanding the lay of the land of where kids are, 2 things. One, if you notice how often we are on our phones or screens, at the end of the day, we get that notification. Usually it's more than we sleep. Kind of an issue, I think. So why we're a little bit out of whack. And then you take kids, and now that's the case. I don't think that they're outside as much. I don't think they're playing as much. And so one of the big things that I wanted to do was have an outdoor turf area where, let's say for an hour a day, I know they're at least getting outside. It's a private facility. There's safety, there's security. You're getting good coaching. I think discipline is missing as well. Like, I want discipline to be a very big fundamental piece of Dark Horse. So when I came back here and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I want at least they're outside for an hour if their parents drop them off. Let's say they're just doing a fun class. You're outside, you're moving, you're with people your age. And then if you're into sports and you want to be sports specific training, we can do that. But I know at least you're getting some sunshine, you're getting outside. And that there was a big pushback in the area about it being open air. But you're talking about, we kids were outside, and that was my logic behind it. And I'm like, I get that, because they were worried about noise and all that. And I'm like, it's really not about noise to me. It's about, like, the kids need to be outside. They need to see the sun. They need to be moving around and be in the elements, because sports are not always inside. I know I played basketball, but after hearing the community and they were worried about sound, I did enclose it, but we'll still have some garage doors. So like, you know, it'll be open air, but for sound on the community side, like, we can close those garage doors. But I think it was important for those kids that are using that space to train to be outside. Yeah. So that's very specific to the area. I live a mile from my land. Okay. So like, I'm in it. So I see it, because of all the construction, all the concerns. And, you know, if I was like out here in St. Aug and I'm telling the neighbors, no, it's not a big deal. No, I live a mile from the land. Like, I see all the construction. JEA's calling me about widening the road, you know, and, you know, so I see it too. So I was very mindful of this particular location, because it's 12 acres, but 8 of it is we don't touch. I wanted it to be very secluded. I wanted it to be very quiet. I wanted it to be almost like an oasis to train. And that's building the main building, which is about 20,000 square feet. It's 2 stories, and a lot of it on the downstairs is like some big turf areas. A lot of Gen Z loves turf just to do their own thing, because they all use training apps. And so they'll just follow their own program. They make a little space, because I go and call these college towns when I'm calling games. I go into a Crunch Fitness, and everybody's on the turf, and they're all doing their own thing. And so you need a place for them. And a lot of different power racks and strength, you know, just equipment, you know, standard stuff. But going upstairs is really cool. I designed a lot of machines. I think barbells in 10 years, 15 years, I don't see a need for them. Mm-hmm. I know that might be crazy, but I've had 3 shoulder surgeries, and the machines that people are coming up with now, you can get in there and you can mimic squat patterns, different presses where it's not hurting your joints. I'm 37 and like doing barbell work hurts now. Mm-hmm. I've been training since I was 13, 14. So, I think the area where I can shine is getting really new and nice machines that some people who they just want to lift, they want to stay healthy. Like, let's not compromise your joints. Let's do something that you can really push yourself in, but you're not going to be out of whack with a barbell or a dumbbell and hurt yourself. You're being a fixed machine. And so upstairs we'll have a kind of a whole row of upper body, lower body, arms, like kind of like a circuit if you want to do that. And then some studio classes up there that put a lot of time and effort into what I think would work out here. And kind of everything you need in one spot. And then the wellness aspect. I don't know if you guys are big wellness, fans. And I don't mean to be in the trendy, oh my gosh, sauna cold plunge. It's the, we've been doing that for centuries. Mm-hmm. Saunas is, as old as time. Cold plunging, we did that in college at every, training facility. Most of them have plunges, but I don't think that people have done them in a community setting. Mm-hmm. With people. I don't know if you've ever gotten to a cold plunge with like 5 other people, but it could be kind of obviously challenging, but when you're staring straight in someone's face like this and it's 40 degrees, first one to blink, right? Yeah. So there's a big community aspect for me that I noticed in the space that, especially during COVID, it was like, people were training by themselves in their garage or whatever they could find, or they were going outside, but like you bring people together. I think there's been a gap in the area that I've noticed that I was like, I want to spearhead this.
And it's strange because like I'm, back when I did some fitness stuff, I don't do it as much anymore. I kind of like to be isolated, but you're saying that you think it's more of a social thing, but I think that might be the way I was brought up.
I like that too, though.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to, all right, if I'm going to knock out, and I'm a proponent of, I'm not a heavy weights person at all, but I was always a proponent of your body's what you got. So push-ups, calisthenics, plyometrics, and that was my, I'm talking when I had like 3% body fat, and now I have more than body fat than anything else.
3%?
Yeah.
I mean, talk to you.
I was ridiculously skinny then, but I mean, with the plyometrics, it was basically your body's what you have, and that was what I always
love
preached.
That.
So what type of diversity would you have as far as the planning of? I mean, you haven't finished the building yet, but you're starting to think, okay, trainers and stuff like that. Would you have somebody who would lean more towards somebody like me, and then you'd have somebody who would be more sports oriented towards somebody, obviously I'm going to train differently than an offensive lineman.
Yeah.
So how are you handling that diversity there?
Yeah. Obviously it's still very early, and I think this, for me, I've been on so many teams my entire life that now for the first time I get to pick my own team. Mm-hmm. And that's exciting for me because, certainly we want to have the same values, being respectful, being disciplined, being considerate, and being respectful. But ultimately, I think having a variety of staff is going to be very important to me, because in our area we've got a lot more retirement communities coming up. Okay, well, I need people who know how to train some of the elderly. Mm-hmm. That might look like, hey, we're going to go for a walk around the property that's outside, so you're getting outside. You might go in the sauna, and that's the stress that you put on your body because you're 70 and you don't necessarily need to be, slamming weights. Okay. So training can look differently for a lot of different groups, but I'm not an athlete anymore. I train, I use weights, I use machines, but like, I'm not looking to, I'm not more performance based anymore. I'm just trying to be healthy. I'm trying to have good blood work and be, live a good life. And I think that's important. So would love to have on staff people that can train the everyday mom and dad, an athlete, some of the elderly people. So I think that it's really important to have all my bases covered. And to your point about calisthenics, when I was designing the gym, I wanted anybody that could come in there. So if you're a power lifter, I have an area for you. Powerlifting can be a little bit distracting when you're slamming 400, 500, whatever. They have their own area. Okay. I like to do free weights. Well, I can step off to the side on that turf area and I can just do my own thing. Well, if you like calisthenics, when you walk to the right, we've got pull-up bars, push-up station, all that over there, and you can do and just be in your own world. Because I'm kind of like you. I like to be. The gym time is my solitude.
I like to be isolated.
Some people are the opposite, and that's why I said, okay, we need some classes, we need some community because that's what they're missing. I get a lot of people when I'm out at different places. Publix is where I get. Publix is. When's your gym coming, and what's it going to be like? And I'm trying to buy some meat, but I love talking to everybody when I get up there. But so whatever you want to do, I want to be the place where you don't have to do this class and then you got to go drive over here to do that. Let's have it all here
under one roof
with the space to do that. And that's why we have the turf building, which is more for youth training, and they're not coming into the main building, which is 16 and up. So high school kids can train there too. And I think that's important because you can bike there from Creekside or Bartram. And, as we were talking about when we were kids, what are you doing after school? Well, I'd love for them to just, get in their car, drive over there, or bike, get over there. And they have an hour, and at least maybe they're making friends. They're talking. I would love to discourage phone use when you're in there. Put it in your bag, talk, lift, and interact. And so there's a lot. I know I'm going on a different rant, but I think it's
important of what you're doing and getting them away from a no phone, having no phone zone and stuff like that. I think that would be very important. So you have a turf field, and St. Johns County is very fortunate. We have 7 or 8 public turf fields. And I got an interesting story with how those came to be. All right. In 2007, 2008, we went through a recession. We were supposed to build all these community centers in each region of the county. The county pulled all that money from Parks and Rec. And the only thing I could do is I said, well, if you let me build a turf field, it saves us money on maintenance.
Oh,
and that's how we ended up with 7. It's because they were not stealing. We had to do it. It was
reappropriated.
It was financially the responsible thing to do because we didn't know how long the recession was going to last. But with that, that's how Gamble Rogers, the field at Plantation, the field at Veterans, all of those turf fields came to be, is because of the recession hit us with that. So changes in our society create sometimes good things. And you said COVID brought you back here. So, it sometimes changes in our society bring us back. But with the turf technology, it has changed so much.
Crazy.
Like literally when in the 80s, when I was playing baseball, an artificial turf field was carpet on concrete.
Yeah.
All right.
That was green.
And the burns, it was green. And the clay part was painted like an orange or something. But I mean, the burns on it and stuff like that. But the technology of this turf is so amazing. How are you keeping up with that? Because in the world you're into here, the technology is crucial to your success. So how are you managing that?
Well, first I want to talk about the turf fields that you guys brought to the county, because amazing. I use them all the time. I was there the morning of Thanksgiving with my doctor running sprints with his daughter, who just got a soccer scholarship. So getting her ready for the next level. And with Dark Horse and the turf and everything, I want to explain why I chose to do that out here, because when I'm out there and I'm going to different turfs or whatever, and I encounter a lot of different coaches, and you can see them out there and they've got clientele. There's one guy in general and specifically that I saw, and I would always see them because I was running every Monday. And it's like he would corner off a little bit of space And I was like, come on, man, come run sprints with me. And he was like, no, it's going to be a long day for me. I was like, what do you mean it's going to be a long day? And he's like, you know, I'm here till 7 or 8, and he can't leave his spot on the turf because it's first come, first served. Like, that's how he runs his business.
Gotcha.
And so I was like, oh, wow. So like, he's there the entire day. I'm sure he can run to the bathroom, but like, if he moves, he can't operate his business because it survives on that public turf.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, you grab 3 or 4 of these guys or girls and that are coaching, and you give them a place where they don't have to sit out there for 17 hours.
Fight the turf.
They don't have to get there 2 hours before just to save
just
that
to
spot.
set it up, and you can have a life. You have your clientele, you bring them, and now it's covered, rain or shine. And I think it streamlines their business a little bit. I'm not looking to take away from anyone's clientele that they already have, but maybe a space that's a little bit more private, and they don't have to go through all that. Yeah. And so that's just one thing. Since I moved back, I'm like, man, there's a lot of coaches out here, and they're all using the space. That's great. But when the leagues kick in, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 o'clock, now they're fighting to run their business.
Yeah.
So that was something that I thought was very specific to this area, but maybe I went somewhere else. Like it wouldn't be necessary, but out here, there's a huge demand for it. And to just be able to have those coaches and those parents not have to worry about, you know, where we're going to be today. Like we know where we're going. We're going to Dark Horse.
That's wonderful.
But about the turf, that's going through a lot of different samples. There's cork-based now versus rubber-based. I'm learning a lot of that through my GC, who I'm meeting with tomorrow, and you know we'll go through all the different samples because I think it's important for maintenance cost. You know, like what is preferred. I know what is out there right now and what I run on, but maybe they keep coming out with new stuff. So.
Yeah, no, it's constantly changing, and the beauty of having a turf field is they last about 15 to 20 years on low volume. Ours only last about 10 to 15, you know, with the public, but the base pretty much all stays the same. Like the way it drains and all that stuff pretty much stays the same. So I know what the changes were just from the first turf field we did to the last turf field we did, and it was like, gosh,
night and day,
completely night and day. What's the square footage of your turf area? It's
about 12,500 square feet. My understanding is it's about 50 yards this way, 25 yards this way. So kind of half of a field, which is plenty for, you know, what I plan to use with it.
So that I think a basketball court's like about 6,000 square feet. So it's about three basketball courts is what it sounds like. So.
When I did my PZA hearing, they were asking me if I was going to do basketball courts, and I was like, no. And they all kind of laughed because, you know, the plans have evolved over time because, you know, it started out we had a basketball court, and then come to find out half of our plans were in not wetlands, but in a different type of. I'm blanking on the terminology. Basically, like it's like a floodplain. They're like, oh, half of your drawings are on floodplain. What does that mean? It means you have to reduce it by 50%. Got to change the whole thing. So we went through all that, but ultimately have landed on a really solid plan. So, but there won't be any basketball.
The wetlands end here, but that buffer doesn't stop until 50
learned that
feet
the
away.
hard way. Yeah. But ultimately, I thought the wetlands were the wetlands, but utilizing all of the natural beauty that's out there. You know, it's not something I want when you're driving on Greenbrier. I don't even want you really to be able to see it from the road. I want you to pull in, and then all of a sudden you're, you know, we're going to spend on landscape and, you know, really, I really want it to be an oasis for people. That's how I see fitness of the future is, you know, it's peaceful, even though, you know, you're going in there and you might be in a class that's loud and everybody's upbeat and everything, but like you still feel at peace. And that it gets me going. I've been training in my garage for 2 years now because I haven't really had a place to train. And I'm just excited to be able to be a part of it and utilize it too, selfishly.
When I was looking at the location, are you guys and I'm trying to figure out exactly because you're off Greenbrier there. Are you on the old bombing range? Do you know where the bombing range was? Because Greenbrier Road used to be called Bombing Range Road.
Okay. I call it 210, but it was a dirt road when I was growing up. And now it's clearly not.
But and if you go back to like the old aerials, like even 30 years ago before some of these developments come in, bombing range, you could still see the circles, and there weren't active bombs, by the way. It was
gonna have to look into that one.
They weren't active bombs. They used flower bombs to practice their targets.
Okay.
So and that was where so you got to be very close because that used to be an old military thing. So now you might have to call something the bombing range and now.
That's funny. Thank you. I'm gonna write that
down. but you're really. I was trying to figure out exactly where it is in comparison to. Are you closer to the middle school there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I went to middle school there.
Yeah. So you're close. You're close to the bombing range.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to reach out to my civil team, and they've got all the maps and the plans and the animals, everything, and be like, am I on the bombing range?
Yeah. Because it was across the street from Greenbrier, from where the middle school is. Yeah. Is where the.
I'm on the same side as the middle school.
Okay, so you're opposite of
it.
Okay. All right. So
Fun
what
fact.
is with putting bombing ranges by schools? My elementary school was right next to a bombing range too.
Well, the bombing, like I said, the bombing range wasn't
too loud things in the same spot.
There's not like active bombs there because here's a wild story. Crazy. This is not the STOITM step. Crazy story. So during World War II, a U-boat came into the new inlet because the inlet we have right now between Volano and Anastasia was cut in by man.
Yeah.
Because that's why the lighthouse.
That's
why the lighthouse is way over where it is. I mean, where Salt Run is, and that was the original. We cut that in there, so they came in there, and someone saw the U-boat, but we didn't have anything, so they called out the bombing range road, and they dropped flower bombs on top of this U-boat, and they weren't sure if it was real bombs or not, so they turned around and went out. But literally, because the Coast Guard took over Flagler College.
Yeah.
So the coast, that was the base during World War II. It was the Southeast Regional was the Coast Guard. The hotel closed down.
Yeah.
But that's why the bombing range was where it was at. So when I say bombing range road, it's not like active bombs out there.
Mine was active bombs. It was active bombs.
That's why you're a West Florida person.
Yeah. But out in the redneck Riviera, we do real bombs by our elementary schools.
I'm just fascinated by you're saying that it's going to be 12 acres. You have a buffer area. Are you having a walking trail go through some of the buffer area?
Would love to have that.
Can get into that nature and see where
because just about 3.5 is developed, so we've got almost 8 sitting there. So I'd love to have some trails. Just so there's a lot of walking trails in a lot of the communities, and I love that. I utilize them all the time, and I just think that to have that again on one place where maybe it's, hey, you're retired, want to join up with people who like to go on walks. That's a way to bring people together, and that's still something that we've got to work out on how we can do that on the property and make sure we're in good graces. Because there's a lot of rules and I'm green on this, so I don't necessarily know, but that's definitely something I've told the team. Hey, I would love to have walking trails. We're not developing it, but let's maybe use them so people can walk around the property.
You should be able to pull that off. I know a good consultant that can get that done.
Okay. We don't have to pay that bill, right? That's good.
Okay. So after your basketball career, you went into broadcasting, and how did that come about? Was it just, okay, I'm looking for something to still stay in sports? And how did that come to be?
Classic athlete, graduated from Florida, had played basketball my entire life, and then didn't get into broadcasting school at Florida. So I was like, okay, I have no idea what I'm going to do now. So went overseas, tried to get into the WNBA, had 2 attempts, didn't make it, spent a year overseas in France, came back, really missed my family. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I know how to do? Well, I know how to train because that's what got me on the floor. So I took, got my personal trainer certification and everything, and started training people at the Bailey's in Mandarin, which is still there. Started training people there, and ended up kind of stepping away from that and was training people out of my parents' garage. And good times there. It's funny, I train in my garage now too, but I didn't know what to do because you spend your entire life playing a sport. You graduate. I graduated telecommunications, and I'm like, okay, what do I do with that? So, and a lot of athletes struggle with this. What is my identity now? What am I going to do? So naturally, I went into training because that's what I knew how to do. And then our SID, Sports Information Director at Florida, called me and was like, hey, ESPN is looking for a color analyst. What is a color analyst? Well, someone who can talk about the game, you know, as it's transpiring. And I'm like, okay, sure. And they were like, can you go to Orlando? That's where one of the Disney studios is. And I said, sure. You know, I was probably 22, 23. Went in there and met everybody. They put me in this booth, looks very similar to this, watched a screen, and they said, put the headphones on and just tell me what you see. I'm like, okay. So I'm just talking 20 minutes, and they said, great, can you come and do 10 games next weekend? I said, 10
games one week.
10, oh, yeah. They told me how much they'd give me, like $900, and I was like, done, be there. But that was like on ESPN3, which is basically like the digital side of ESPN. And so that was like my first ever game. I was working with, I'll never forget, Kevin Cork. I think he works for Fox News now, and he was a SportsCenter anchor forever. And we're sitting there and the light comes on and he's like, that means go. And I don't even know what I said, but, you know, I had 0 reps in TV. And it was, you know, I got a lot of reps doing that and a lot of summers of doing that. And it was like slowly working my way into breaking into ESPN. And maybe one year it was 3 games, 5 games, and then 8 games. And then I was doing personal training. And so I could do both because I could lend my schedule around the 2. And then SEC Network launched in 2014. And I think I was a former SEC player and they wanted former SEC players. So it was kind of a match made in heaven. And, you know, that's when I really got to full-time become a sports broadcaster. But certainly was not easy because now, you know, in sports broadcasting at schools, they're getting hours, years of reps, not on live TV. That I made a lot of those mistakes where you're stuttering or you're lost, you mess up, and that, you know, people see that. So in today's world, the kids now in college, like they're getting so good when they come out of college. But my journey was a little bit different where, you know, I walked on at Florida and then I didn't get into broadcasting school, landed with ESPN. I've been with them ever since. That's kind of where the origin story of Dark Horse came from, is sitting in conference tournaments. Everyone's like, Steffi, who's going to be the Dark Horse here? And it's always the team that, you know, nobody is counting on or nobody thinks they're going to do anything. And I'm kind of like, man, it's kind of like how my journey was of life. You know, even when I won Miss Florida basketball, people were like, oh, she doesn't deserve that. Which was kind of hard, but, you know, whatever. I didn't vote, you know, but thank you.
It was like you're out campaigning.
Yeah, you know, and so like just the whole story intertwined, and I'm like, that's the arc of my journey, and I think that's got to be the name of the gem. So.
Well, that's excellent. We're kind of coming to the end here, but I want to say, I got to give a thank you and a shout out to your family, because they've done a lot of philanthropic things in the community, and you know, and your dad and uncle were very instrumental in their Firehouse Sub. So I'll give the plug to the company, their Firehouse Sub, but I mean it came from their heart for Field of Dreams. When we first started Field of Dreams, we didn't have any money. We were hitting up parents, and because everything was free to the athletes. And when we asked them, hey, would you be a sponsor? They're like, how much are uniforms? And they paid for all the uniforms, like the first 3 seasons of Field of Dreams.
That's amazing. So
with no question. So, I mean, you know, having that philanthropic heart, hopefully that carries on to the next generation. I think it will.
Yeah. So. My family is filled with entrepreneurs. You know, my grandfather, entrepreneur, my dad and my uncle entrepreneurs, my grandfather on my mom's side entrepreneur. Now my sister has 2 restaurants in the area. Ember and Iron is right on Greenbrier as well, and she's got Gemma, which is out in San Marco. So she's an entrepreneur, and now it's my turn. And when you told me that story, it just reminded me of like when I was growing up, and people would tell me they just loved working for my dad and my uncle, and it doesn't register when you're 18, 19, 20. And then going into my sister's restaurants, I when she was on maternity leave, I was working in the back of the kitchen with her husband, which I had never worked in a kitchen before. Respect, thrown into the fire there. And a lot of people were like, I love working for Brittany and Mike. And I was like, it's really cool to hear that, you know? And so that's what gives me that motivation now to impact my community in a local way, where I hope people say that I really love your gym, or I like, you know, the community and the environment that you're building here. So that's what I strive for. And then ultimately landing on something that's philanthropic in the area that, you know, somebody can come and tell me, hey, you did this for us. Yeah. That's got to be the feel good part. And I know that's what, when my dad talks about it, all the firefighters that he helped, that firehouse was able to help when he was a firefighter, making 13 grand, you know, when we were growing up, and just all the sacrifices. So that's, you know, I think ultimately the purpose was missing in TV. You need I need a little something else. Yeah. And so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. No, putting your arms around your community.
Totally.
Really, it always comes back. So anything we left off that we have to talk about before we
got to get to chapter 2.
Yeah. Well, you got to come back.
Come back.
You got to come back.